Hello and welcome back to Milmo Wood from the beautiful North Wales. It's a lovely summer's day here in North Wales. The sun's shining beautifully just outside the workshop. I'm in my new workshop. As you can see, it's still a mess, a long way to go. There's a series of videos showing how I'm going to transform this overrun, packed, run down garage into a nice small workshop. But that being said, I've got a commission that I need to do. I'm honoured to have been asked to make a second piece for a church, a local church. If you have a look at one of my short videos, you'll see that I made some candlesticks previously. They've asked me to make a font for them, a font cover for them out of oak, and try and match what they've already got. What an honour, really. So today that's what we're going to do. We're going to make an oak font cover for a local church. Hope you like the video. It's the first one for a long time just on woodworking. I appreciate that you're sticking with me, and I've put all sorts of videos and none of them about actually making a project, which is what I normally do. But today I'm doing a project. So let's get started. If you like the video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button. Maybe subscribe, ring that bell so that you don't miss anything. Maybe ask your friends, because I'm a very small channel and it'd be good to grow. So let's get started on this font cover. So I've put the wood through the thicknesser. I've got it slightly oversized to what I need. So I need it 13.5 inches, and I've made these 14 inches in length, and then it's a lot wider, but I'll cut that down on the table saw. I'm using the smaller clamps to hold the pieces aligned, and the larger clamps to put the pressure on. Allow that to dry now, and then we can crack on and start making the font cover. I've raised the blade just over the height of the wood. I need to cut a nice straight edge, and then I'll cut the other side to the correct size. So we cut one side to the correct length. Now we're going to cut the opposite sides. But remember, we glued up 3 pieces of wood. So what I don't want to do is have a joint lopsided. So I'm not going to cut to the correct length all on one side. I'm going to find the center point and cut a section off each side, an equal section off each side, and then the joint will be matching and symmetrical on the finished piece. So let's measure that and get that cut. So that's currently 44.5 centimeters, or 17.5 inches thereabouts. So if I find the center spot now, 22, out there, and I'm just going to take that center line. Don't need to draw it all the way down the piece, but I'm just going to take it to the far side there. So we know that's the center line. We know the distance from front to back is 345, so we need to measure out now 345, but 172.5 millimeters from the center line. And I'm just going to elongate those measurements. And then measure twice, cut once. So just check Perfect. 345 millimeters. Perfect. And now to cut off the equal strips on both sides of the material. Now I'm not going to cut it exactly to the line on the first cut. I'm going to cut the majority off and then just sneak up to the line so I get it right. Okay, so that was the first cut, and this time I'm going to cut right to the line. Oh no, now we need some calculations. Here's the mathematics bit. You may not like it, but it's what we need to do to make sure we get the correct shape. Hang on for a couple of minutes. If you don't like the maths, skip forward a few minutes and we'll get back to cutting the wood. Well, I'm not a mathematician, but let me try and explain how I'm going to calculate the angles for the octagon that I'm going to cut. Basically, we need 360 degrees, which is the full circumference of any shape, divided by the number of sides that any shape has. So in the example that I'm showing here, we're looking at an equilateral triangle which has a 60-degree internal corner and therefore has a 120-degree external corner. Triangle has three sides. 360 divided by 3 equals 120 degrees, which gives you the external cut. If you look at this diagram, I'm trying to demonstrate that each corner is 60 degrees and each external cut is the 120 degrees, giving you the full 360 degrees of this if you imagine a circle around the triangle. We then move on to the octagon. So 360 degrees divided by 80 gives us an external cut of 45 degrees. And if you look at the example here, on one line we've got 45 degrees external and 135 degrees internal. So now the next question is, how long are the straight sides to cut an equal sized octagon? Because you could have different size straight sides, but we want it equal. I definitely had to look this one up. So we know the length of the octagon that we want. In my case it's 345 millimeters. Using pi we can now calculate what each outside straight edge length would be. So we got pi equals 3.14159 and it goes on up more digits. We need to divide pi by 8 because there's 8 sides, which gives us approximately 0.393. You then need to use the tangent on your calculator. So the tangent of 0.393 equals 0.414. We know the diameter of the object, so one straight line to another straight line is 345 millimeters. Multiply that by the tangent, so 345 millimeters multiplied by 0.414 equals 142.83 millimeters approximately. So we know each straight edge is 142 or 143 millimeters. I hope you understood that. You could pause the video and go back through it, but there we go. Whew. Well, thank goodness that's over. Needed to do it. Pi I had to look up, but we've done it. So now I'm going to use the miter saw to cut the angles. So we've already got the centre mark, but I'm just going to double check. 345. We cut it slightly off centre. It's only about a millimetre, so it won't be noticed. And then we needed to have the side length 142.83 millimeters or 143. Again, we're going to go either side of the halfway mark. So 143 is 71.5. So I'm going to start the 20, 71.5 there. Likewise on the other side. So we've got a little starter lines. So I'm just going to make sure I've measured that correctly. So it's 140.2. So just set the miter saw up to the 45 degrees that we calculated. Tighten it up. And we're ready to go. So we got our marks where the blade needs to cut. I happen to have a laser on the machine, so I'll use the laser to line up the mark. That's spot on, but I'm not confident enough in the laser being that accurate against the blade. So I'm going to take it back a millimetre or so, and then we can creep up to the mark to make sure that we're accurate. And now to do the final cut. Just take it forward a slight. Perfect. And now I can either flip the wood over or turn the blade the other side to cut the other cut on this flat plane. I'm going to choose to move the miter saw. And then for the final cut, I'm just going to nudge it up a little bit. So we've now got the first three cuts. Now we need to measure the length from that corner to here, and likewise on the other side of the wood. But we're nearly there already. Whoa! Well, I was a little nervous cutting it, trusted the maths worked. We've now got an octagon, equal-sided octagon. Need to route around the edges, put something fancy, a nice finish on the edge. I need an octagon for the centre, because I'm going to make a little lifting handle for the centre, something a bit different. But I'm very pleased and I'm glad it's worked. Well, to make the octagon for the middle, for the handle, I'm going to use some of the offcuts. I mean, expensive wood oak. Just going to glue these together, and if I hold that up against the main font, it's just a nice size. Let's get this glued, have it set, cut an octagon out of this. While that's setting, in the meantime, I'm going to router the main top. So 2 triangles glued together, put it under a bit of pressure, leave that to set. Let's get the router. Well, I had to think long and hard. I had all my router cutters out, couldn't decide what I was going to do. Decided I'll try something different. The router bit has still got the rubberized cover on it, never been used. If I could just bring that close. I'm hoping that'll just look a little bit different. And because I've not used it before, I'm going to use it on an offcut of the same wood, and I'm just going to try it and make sure I'm happy with it. So, I've done the cut. I'm really pleased with it. It is different. It's only a small section. Hopefully across the whole section of the octagon it'll look really nice and just kind of hide some of the weight. Let's see what it looks like, because I could always adjust it and put another cutter on it and get a different shape. But I'm going to go with it. I'm happy with it. Let's see where we go. And life's about experimenting. If you don't try it, you'll never know. I've put the router on quite a slow cut because it's going to take a fair bit of material off, and it's quite a big router bit. Just deciding which side I want to be the top. I think I'm going with this side. Here goes. Okay, I'm really pleased with that. We've gone right round. What I'm going to do now is just go around again and just make sure I've got everything off. Oh, well, I'm really pleased. I think I've made the right choice. Looks beautiful. Bit cleaning up. And that's mostly the main font cover done. I'm very happy with that, good progress. So we need to cut out the hexagon for the top and then the handle. If you stick around to the end, I think you'll like the handle. It's going to be something a little bit different. Have to watch it at the end now. The router bit and the router, I am not going to change the depth on this now. That's locked in for when I cut the smaller octagon to go on top. Did I say hexagon again? Oh dear. I'm probably going to wait now. I need the smaller piece to dry. I could sand this, but I think it's time for a cup of tea. Join me in a minute. Well, I'm really pleased. I followed exactly the same process for the smaller octagon, which will sit in the centre of the font cover. I'm really happy. Just need to centralise that. I won't glue it on yet. I'll do all the sanding and preparing, and then I'll glue it on later, just before the finish. Don't forget, stick around because the handle's going to be amazing. I completed the final sand. I wet the wood and then did the final sand. I've only gone down to 180 grit, and by wetting the wood you raise the grain and then you re-sand it again. I'm now gluing the center octagon in, and to glue that, as you can see, I've used a drill. I found the center of the top octagon and the bottom octagon, drilled through, and then I've used the drill as a locating pin. And then to ensure that the octagon was straight, I've used a set square on the straight edge and followed that through to the center piece. I'll wait for that to dry, and then we're ready to do some final finish. The next construction part though is, I need to build a crucifix for the center, which is going to be used as the handle. If you wait till the end of the video, you'll see how that turns out. To make the crucifix, I've squared off some of the off-cutter wood that we cut from the main font body. I've done a smaller square and a larger square. I was going to use this larger one, but I'm not convinced, so I cut a smaller piece. I'm just going to wait for the font cover to dry, for the wood glue to dry, so I can check what size looks best, and I'm thinking I'm going with the smaller piece. While the glue's drying, I've just marked out for the crucifix where I want the cross beam to be, and I measured the thickness of the wood, then made the mark, and then I've measured the depth of the wood and where the cut's going to be to do a lap joint. I've also written which bit's the top so I don't mix it up, and then on the top piece I've done the same, or on the cross piece I've done the same, should I say. So now I'm going to cut those out on a scroll saw. I'm really pleased with that. There's a slight gap which we can fill. There's a bit of sanding to be done. There's a tiny little lip, and it also needs trimming down to the correct size. But overall I'm happy with that. Okay, let's glue the pieces together. Need to make sure the glue's on all the surfaces. Okay, let's clamp that down. I'm going to use a really small clamp, which is about the thickness of the wood. Because I want to make sure that it's firmly in on that joint. And then again, let's leave that to dry. So the crucifix is dry now. I'm just going to soften the edges off. It's a bit small for a router. So I'm just going to stick it onto this plywood with some very strong self-adhesive tape. And then I can hold the plywood and router the piece. Well, that's the theory. Let's see how we get on. Make sure you keep your fingers well away. Pleased with that. Now let's turn it over, do the other side. Really pleased with that. Now to get some sanding done. Okay, so I'm about to take a bit of a risk. I want to screw the crucifix. onto the base. I need to drill a pilot hole through the crucifix. I've got rather a long screw because it's got a long base to go through first. It's got to be countersunk into the base. I need the hole smaller than the screw. Oak is quite dense, but I am concerned that it may split the crucifix. So I'm going to do it by hand, and I need to make sure that the hole is as straight as I can possibly get it. I'm just going to mark the centre with a punch, as near to centre as possible. I'm just going to eye that. Oh. It looks pretty central to me. I don't know if you can see that. Little trick, I'm going to put the drill in reverse initially before I drill forwards. Then I'm putting it into forwards. Just taking it gently before I start drilling in fully. Trying to keep the drill bit as straight as possible. Now I'm going to drive the screw into the hole. I'm not going to take it all the way, just part of the way, just so that we've got a starting point for when we put it onto the base itself. Moment of truth, I guess. Just going to take it in slowly, forward and reverse. Don't become too complacent, gentle, gentle. Okay. Now I'm going to secure it to the base. I need to countersink the base to accept the head of the screw, and then I'm going to put a dowel on top of that. Now, I've chosen a screw where the thread stops by the head, so the centre hole that we drilled has to be wide enough for this shank, I think that's what it's called, of the screw, so that when the screw's in, that's free to rotate and pulls down. If it was thread all the way, it wouldn't have that compression ability. I am very nervous. Got to decide which orientation the cross is going to be. And then got the screw head just so that it pokes through. I'm going to back that off a little bit. Okay, it's a tiny little piece sticking out. And then we're going to fix the cross on. And the centre hole. Apply pressure to the cross while screwing at the same time. Nerves are definitely showing. Well, be patient, I guess. And we got there in the end, just about, I think. Skin of my teeth. Just going to reclamp the crucifix on. Leave that to dry properly. I think I'll leave that overnight. There's a bit of glue squeeze out on the bottom. Need to get that off before it dries. I think we're there. I've just put the dowel in place off camera, so I just glued it and tapped that in, and that'll cover the screw head. I'll leave that to dry along with the crucifix, and tomorrow we'll saw the waste material off that. I don't know how well you can see, but there's some little gaps that I need to fill, just on one side. So I'm going to use a mixture of wood glue and sawdust. I just need to mask the area off, so as not to get wood glue on the finished surface. The idea to use a screwdriver. Just squeeze it in there. Okay, I'm okay with that. I'm going to leave that to dry now, and then I'll remove the masking tape. Don't forget to clean your screwdriver if you use one. And now to apply some of my favourite finish, a bit of Osmo hard oil. Nice wipe on. Let's see how the wood pops, eh? Absolutely beautiful. Love it.